to the RBG Gold Rush Charity Marathon. I am your host, Randomize, and we are going to be proceeding on to Super Mario Bros. Warpless by the one and only SuperSonic. So, SuperSonic, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is SuperSonic. I am a Mario and Sonic speedrunner, and ironically, we will be seeing Mario and Sonic in this marathon. But first, we're going to kick it off with the game that started it all, Super Mario Brothers. And when you're ready for the countdown, I'll go ahead and start. All right. So we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so here we are in Mushroom Kingdom, playing as our mustachioed plumber that came from Brooklyn, New York, or apparently in the cartoon he did. And we're pretty much going to try to save the damsel in distress from the clutches of King Bowser of the Koopa clan. So first thing we're going to do in 1-1, we're just going to grab the mushroom. And just like that, we're already done with 1-1. Like, we hardly saw any of the level. So coming up in 1-2, we're going to be grabbing our Fire Flower, and we're going to try to keep that throughout the rest of the game. Get this block, grab this Fire Flower, and that gives us the ability to shoot fireballs. And this will be helpful in the castle stages in each world, as we will see shortly. But first we're going to try to snipe up all these guys here. Okay, so 353 pipe exit, so we're just going to go ahead and run straight to the flagpole. If I got into the pipe a second slower, I would have gotten a 6 at the end of the timer, which would have given me 6 fireworks, and that would cost about 2 seconds. So I'm going to try not to get any 3 or 6 fireworks in this run. 1 firework is okay because that doesn't really cost any time. But 3 will cost about 1 second, and 6 will cost about 2. So now we're in 1-3, which is like our treetop stage. Pretty straightforward. Heading into the castle of World 1. And this is the reason why we need fire. Because we're going to be fighting an imposter Bowser from Worlds 1 through 7. And we're going to be revealing who the imposter is. I'm going to dodge these fireballs, which I like to call hot Cheetos. And then 5 fireballs will kill off the imposter, and as we saw there, it was a Goomba that was secretly inside the Bowser costume. So just like that, we are done with World 1. And heading into World 2. There's going to be some pretty fancy platforming, as well as sniping of the piranha plants, the Goombas, the Koopas. You can get a double kill there. Nope, not quite. It is actually possible to get a double kill on the piranha plant and the Goomba. It's usually frame perfect, but it doesn't really help with anything. It's just for swag. So now we are approaching the water level. And I'm sure a lot of us thought about this when we first played this video game. Is how is it possible for Mario to shoot fire in the water? Well, I like to call it Nintendo logic. And what's the logic? I have no idea. It just sounds interesting. But anyway, we're gonna try to avoid a lot of these enemies as much as we can. If we have to shoot them down, we will shoot them down if they're like literally right up in our face. And the reason for that is sometimes the patterns can change depending on the camera position. So if this would pretty much come into effect in 7-2, which is also the same water level, except there will be more enemies. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't get a bad blooper at the end, because that blooper can be pretty tricky to deal with. All right, so coming up is 2-3. We are on the bridge this time, and we got a bunch of Cheep Cheeps flying right at us. Now, there's one thing that I haven't quite mentioned yet, and that is frame rules. So this game runs on a frame rule system, and a frame rule is 21 frames or 0.35 seconds. And this pretty much comes into play mostly for any percent, but it also applies to Warpless as well. And the reason being is it depends on Bowser's patterns for each castle stage. Because he jumps in 3 different directions. He'll jump either forward, backward, or he'll do a change direction where he jump backwards or forwards, like in the air. And also the fire bars and the potoboos in the castles also vary as well. You can pretty much jump at various heights as well as, you know, spin at different rotations, which is why we use the frame rule system to know what pattern we are on. In this case, we don't really know what frame rule we're on, so we're kind of just winging it. And we shot down Bowser again, and we saw there was a Koopa that was hidden. And that is World 2. Now heading into World 3, this is our first night stage. It's pretty much just a lot of fancy platforming with shooting the fireballs. And as you can pretty much notice, I'm not shooting everything down. And the reason being is you can only have up to 4 enemy sprites on screen. And also the fireballs count as enemy sprites. So if we try to shoot 2 fireballs while there's like 4 enemies on screen, it can create a lot of lag. So you'll kind of notice that I don't really shoot everybody down. However, in 3-2, I will be shooting a couple of Goombas down, and this will actually come into play for the end of the stage. So now we're just going to keep on ignoring a lot of these enemies. Just going to do a bit of a bounce shoot there. Okay, that right there, we play to the music. We thank Goofy Chocobo, who's the runner that actually found the strat to despawn a Goomba at the end. So we always thank Goofy whenever we shoot those fireballs with the music. Now I got 3-3, which is another treetop level. And you kind of notice that I went through the platform there. That's because the platforms are pretty thin. And they're pretty much at a specific height to where big Mario can jump right through it. If you're small Mario, you cannot jump through because the platform is too high. So now we got 3-4 coming up. This level is pretty dependent on frame rules, so I will be playing it slightly safe for some of these patterns, especially for these fire bursts coming up. There should be like a fire bar here. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna play a little safe for this part right here. So we actually have a spreadsheet when we do PB attempts for this game, and it'll pretty much tell us what kind of patterns we will get depending on what frame rule we're on. So like on our splits, when we see it for like 0.3 ahead or 0.7 ahead, and since it's by like 0.35 increments, then on the spreadsheet, we can pretty much look at what time we're at, and that'll pretty much determine what kind of enemy patterns we will get for that stage. But in 4-1, we don't have to worry about that. This is just mostly a lucky to just aimlessly throwing the spinies there, not even hitting us. And can you believe it? We're already in World 4, and we're barely like 7 minutes into the run. So now we're coming into 4-2. I don't know what made me come up with 7. But 4-2, this is actually my favorite level in Warpless. And for a lot of people that are pretty familiar with the Warps category, which is the any %, we normally take a Warp Zone here. By pretty much pushing Mario to the right at approximately 20 pixels, and it can trigger a wrong warp. But since we're playing Warpless, we don't need to do that. I'm just gonna play right through the level. And just like that, we are done with 4-2. So roughly these levels take about like roughly 30 seconds to a minute depending. But they're fairly short stages. Now 4-3, there is a unique frame rule to this one. If you keep holding right the entire stage and not bonk into anything, you can get what we call a Sky Boots frame rule, and that'll give us a fast screen transition. So Mario did have a pixel of sky underneath his boot. So with that pixel of sky, it'll give us a much faster screen transition. If I didn't get that, it will be a slower transition, thus losing a frame rule as well. So now we got 4-4 coming up. I'm gonna try to go for a clip here. I just missed it. You can actually clip through that corner, and it'll pretty much save a little bit of time compared to like going up and over. Okay, this Bowser's a little tricky. Oh god. I don't know why I turned right there. But we are halfway done with the game. And heading into World 5, in which the difficulty will start ramping up a little bit.
Can I just step in for like a quick second and say that if I was running this game right now, I would probably still be on World 1-1, bumping into the first Goomba every time.
Yeah, I've been running this game for 5 years. I did start with any percent, and I ran that for about like a good portion of the year. And then when I started learning Warpless, I didn't want to learn like any percent again. So I was like, I'm gonna stick with Warpless. This is like a much more fun category.
I don't blame you. Honestly, I do not.
Yeah, any percent is pretty optimized at this point. There is a couple more frame rules that can be saved, but it is pretty tight to save them. I'm gonna take it a little safe here. And but yeah, with Warpless, there's still like plenty of time to save, but it's pretty tough because you're pretty much playing roughly 19 to 20 minutes of a video game and try to play it flawlessly, which is easier said than done. So 5-3 is basically a carbon copy of 4-3. You kind of saw that the bullet bill didn't hit my head there. That's because I ducked right before, and I don't know what happened there, but that was pretty cool. So when I duck and I'm running off a ledge, that'll actually cut Mario's hitbox in half. So even though it looks like it's going to hit him point blank, but it basically gives him small Mario hitboxes. Okay, 5-4 is a carbon copy of 2-4, so you're gonna notice a lot of carbon copies in the stages. I jumped a little short there, so I ended up getting hit by that fire bar, which is pretty much like it happens quite a bit in 5-4, especially in tournament races or what have you, or no reset runs. So even though I'm small right now, it's okay. We're gonna get fire right back in 6-1. Okay, so we're gonna grab the mushroom here. And that's another thing about this game. Like, if you plan to run this and you get hit somewhere and you don't know where all the power-ups are, it's best to know your backups for this run. Otherwise, it would get a little difficult to get past everything. So, like, knowing all your power-up locations, it's definitely a good way to practice Warpless in general, which is pretty much how I learned it. And it's kind of funny too, with my very first run of Warpless, I actually soft locked in 7-1 on a spring. So I ended up timing out and my time was like a 24-minute run. But since then, my PB has dropped down to a 1902, which used to be 8th place on the leaderboard. Now it's dropped down to 10th. Since there's like a lot of people that got sub 19 and there's a couple people that have a 19 flat. So I actually haven't been running this game regularly. I've been running Sonic 3 and Knuckles a lot more. But whenever it comes to this game, it's like, oh, it's just like, you know, riding a bike. Like, if you haven't ridden a bike in a long time, this is pretty much how it feels with this game for me. After not running it for, I'd say like about 3 to 4 months maybe, which doesn't seem like a long time, but for me it is. So now we got 6-3 here. I did slow down intentionally so I don't get a 6 at the end of the timer there. Otherwise I would have gotten 6 fireworks. Now we got 6-4, which is basically 1-4, but we got more fire bars and more potaboos. We're gonna wait here for a little bit. We're gonna manipulate the fire bars in the middle of the stage, so we can just get past here pretty freely. And now Bowser's going to start throwing hammers, which does create lag because it's also considered enemy sprites. So if he has like more than 6 hammers on screen and you're shooting fireballs at the same time while there's like other things on screen, it'll lag like a lot. Which does come into play when it comes to retiming like a lot of these runs. But anyways, we are in World 7 right now. We got this world, then we got World 8 to go. This is practically your battlefield stage. There's like a bunch of bullet bill cannons, and you got hammer bros. It's like the whole shebang. And now 7-2, which I consider like probably the most dangerous level when you're going for low 19-minute pace. And this is pretty much where I was describing about the bad blooper at the end. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to shoot any of these guys right now. I'm going to go underneath this one and underneath that one. And if I see an enemy nearby, I will have to shoot it. Okay, thankfully I didn't have to shoot that guy down. If I end up getting a bad blooper, that will lose a little bit of time. But sometimes you could chance it, but it's a very tight window to get into the pipe. Let's see, what's the verdict on the blooper? Looks like we got a bad one. We're gonna challenge it. Oh, we barely got through. I think if it was like a pixel or two closer, I would have gotten hit for sure. So now we got 7-3, which is 2-3, just we got Koopas this time. We're gonna try to avoid some of these guys here. I think this guy may... Oh, he did not hit me. Okay, I'm gonna do a duck jump right there to avoid that cheap. Do a duck jump there. And we're done with that. Alright, now we got 7-4, which is a maze level. So we will be taking a specific path here. Alright, gonna take the bottom, then the middle, and the top. And we're gonna take the top, and do a duck jump to avoid the top bar there, to go into the middle, then top again. So this will give us the Bowser. Okay, we got blocked by the Potable shots, which is okay. And that is the final fake Bowser. So now we're in World 8. So 4 more levels to go. And 8-1 is basically the longest level in the game. So what we're going to do here is there's going to be a spot where I'm going to stomp on 2 Koopas. These 2 guys right here. And that's going to despawn one of the Goombas at this end. And then we are going to hit this star block. And there's a reason why we hit it. At the end of the flagpole, at the end of the level, I mean, the flagpole will be risen 1 pixel higher. So what we call that is good judges. If we, it's usually pretty much guaranteed you get it in Warpless, but if you do it in any percent, it has to be specifically the first pixel of the block. And you kind of see like the block will flash and then like the stars popping out. So that would pretty much make it a faster transition to the next level. Kind of similar to 4-3. Oh dear. There's a little bit of slowdown there. Okay, so we're just gonna play this next portion here a little safer. Right about here. So we're gonna brush up against this pipe and this one. Big jump, and we should get a bounce off this Koopa there. And what I like to call that is the Xerox Fiend BBBB strat, and it means bonk, brush, boing, and bounce. And that'll pretty much get you through that portion of 8-2 safely each and every time. So shout outs to my boy Xerox Fiend for that strat.
Yeah, say that one again. The 5 Bs of Mario.
It's bonk, brush, boing, and bounce.
And bonk.
Alright, so now we're at the home stretch. I tried to bonk into that top the top 2 tiles there to intentionally slow down, but just barely, you know, just barely missed it. Okay, so now we're in the final level. Time will be when I grab the axe, because we don't have to kill Bowser for this one. So now for the second room, we're gonna push the B button there. We're gonna try to go for a 2 pixel setup for wall jump, or a 2 frame setup actually. And then we're gonna do a turnaround here, because this will pretty much take us into the water as soon as possible. If we did that turnaround a little shorter or sooner than usual, that would pretty much send us back to the beginning of the level. So now you kind of notice that the fire bar is like going through Mario's head. That's because I cut Mario's hitbox in half by crouching and then swimming. All right, here we go, and time. Whew, that was a run.
Wow. Nice job. SuperSonic flying through that, and it looks like you got a 1932. So you're still in the 19s. Nice job, bud. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We just want to also remind everyone that we are raising money for Rise Above the Disorder. Please type !RAD for more information, and please kindly donate !donate. But with that, we're going to take a quick short break, and we're going to be back again with SuperSonic, but Sonic the Hedgehog. So don't go too far, folks. 5 minutes, and we'll be right back.